evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to the One Perspective to Another podcast. I am your humble, gracious host, A. Sanders, here with a very special episode. This is episode 150 of the One Perspective to Another podcast. You know I do not name our podcast till after. We're going to have our guest probably fill out the intro on what this podcast will be called. But without further ado, I want to welcome you in to the podcast, Mr. Aaron Kagan. How are you doing, sir?
Thank you, A. I appreciate being here and being able to reach the ears of the many people listening to the One Perspective to Another podcast. Hopefully I'll help someone with my story.
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely that will happen. We will make sure that happens. And we will tell your story. A little background on AK. I know AK, or met AK, the Mad Dog, a.k.a. the Mad Dog from fantasy football. He is a fantasy football superstar, to say the least. That's where I know him from. One more time?
I try to be. That's funny.
But AK is here to tell a story. AK is here to tell a story about his upbringing, his life. Little did I know, or only found out, I want to say, less than a couple years ago, that AK, we call him AK for short, that AK has cerebral palsy.
My name, Aaron Kagan.
Huh?
That's for my name, Aaron Kagan. Aaron Kagan.
Yeah, there you go. We got him.
We got AK.
So we got Aaron Kagan, professional name, AKA, not AK, but also AK. He's here to tell his story, and I want you to tell the people a little bit about yourself, what you want to get going, and just start telling your story from specifically growing up, because it's a very interesting story. It's a story that I feel is very important that people need to hear, because like you said, you listen to my podcast, perspective is key, and not everybody has the same perspective living life. We all go through different things, we all experience different things, and I think your story is most definitely worth hearing. So the floor is yours, sir.
Exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. You know, listening to your podcast made me feel like I could share my story and you could help me share it. And that's what I really wanted to accomplish, is sharing my story to hopefully help another person with developmental disabilities or cerebral palsy kind of overcome that and kind of see, the errors I've made in the past and hopefully influence them to, do something different than I did, in other words.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. So we start with just telling your story about growing up, and like you said earlier, talking about not realizing what was going on and thinking like you were more of a, not saying that you weren't a regular kid, but just growing up with a disability. So tell the people about like growing up, elementary school and stuff like that, and how it was for you.
So the earliest memory I have of my childhood is in the halls of Shriners Hospital for crippled children, right? So when I was 4 years old, or 3 years old actually, I had my first surgery at Shriners, and that's the earliest memory as a kid. That's the earliest memory I can think of, is the big stuffed Pink Panther stuffed animal in the halls.
Mm-hmm.
And that, growing up from that, I was a kid going through physical therapy, then started elementary school. I didn't think I had anything wrong. I thought I was a regular kid, Yeah, I had a little bit of teasing, but I didn't think much of it, I thought I was regular. And then when I got into like 5th, 6th grade, I kind of knew I was different. and had to have another surgery when I was 11. Then in recovering from that, I was really resistant to physical therapy because of a bad experience.
Mm-hmm.
So that might have been one of my missteps in my recovery, is not taking my physical therapy super seriously. Like, I kind of pushed it off and didn't think it was useful. But looking back on it now, being 33, I can see that when I was a kid, it would have been really useful to really take it seriously, you know? And that's what I would stress to anyone else in a similar situation. Really take your physical therapy seriously.
Yeah, most definitely. But you can't beat yourself up for being a kid. You know, like
Yeah, exactly.
even if it's not like physical therapy or something of that
Right.
extreme, like you can't go
Yeah.
back and tell your little self like, hey, you know, it's whatever. But like I
Right,
totally hear
right.
you. Like just looking back in hindsight.
So then I had my second surgery, and I was basically recovering for like the 2 years I would have been in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
So I had a homeschool tutor, thanks to the Department of Education of Hawaii. They came to my house twice a week, the single tutor, and it was great. I mean, I had my school. I mean, I don't know what else I would have done, you know, thanks the DOE of Hawaii.
Were you were born in Hawaii?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so like when it comes to like healthcare and stuff, do you feel like Hawaii did like a good job in that sense and like giving you
Oh,
that?
yes, totally, 100%. And even now, I feel like they have the best healthcare system, you know, I could ask for. I mean, everything I need is taken care of.
That's good.
Yeah. So
Um,
when I was 11, had the surgery, then recovered, having the homeschool tutor. But when I was in 8th grade, getting out of 8th grade, I made the decision that I wanted to go to high school. So I went to Kalani High School, which is a public high school here in Hawaii. And it was a great school. I had a great experience, very minimal teasing. I mean, you would think, you know, someone walking the way I was walking would have the load of teasing. Like, that's the thing. I was adapting to my situation and walking how I needed to walk to move through space, you know, to get from class to class.
yeah,
So it was really, I mean, looking back on it now, it was really amazing what I was doing. I was like arching my back and thrusting my hips in order to move my body through space, when in hindsight, I could have just used a wheelchair. I could have just jumped in a wheelchair,
yeah,
had that option, but I was very resistant to using any kind of aids or any kind of wheelchair. I guess kind of a pride thing. I don't know, I didn't want to use anything. But then when I graduated high school and I was in college, starting at KCC, which is a community college here in Hawaii, started there, and it was really hard to walk from so far from class to class. So my dad came up with the idea of using a cane to kind of help me get from class to class. So when I started using that, I started kind of relying on the cane and kind of needing it in order to walk, because I guess the way I walk, I was adapting, and I guess I adapted to using the cane. So, like, if I didn't have the cane, I couldn't walk. And that, in hindsight, was really the start of the downfall.
Mm. So let's give a little background on specifically like how your cerebral palsy like affected you and like what type that you had or have.
Yeah. So I cerebral palsy is different for every single case. It is some sort of brain damage and the effects of that brain damage. So in my case, it was a congenital malformation of the inner core of my brain. So the corpus callosum was malformed, and that affects, that shows in effects of motor skills and your brain's connection to your body. Mm-hmm. So that is called cerebral palsy. Any kind of effects that are from the brain damage is cerebral palsy. The specific type I have is called spastic diplegia, and every case is different. Some people have some form of spastic diplegia, as the effect of the cerebral palsy. Mm-hmm. So others have other things. It's a wide range, and the Cerebral Palsy Foundation would be a great resource to find out more info, I would think.
Most definitely. Or segueing question on that, like, do you feel like you are, I guess, are an advocate or would want to be an advocate for this?
Well, I mean, in my regular activities, I try to be a political advocate on certain topics. I've tried to campaign for certain candidates, and I am active in the advocacy sphere, I would say.
Yeah.
So I try my best to advocate, and this is considered, I would be advocating for people with cerebral palsy, and that foundation I would stress as a good charity for sure.
Because most of the time, like, people don't always, I whistle when I say my S's, people don't always see when something affects people, and it might not be characteristics, it might be mental, it might be physical, but like until something happens to you or you grow up going through something, you don't really take into account. So I think it's really like dope that you do those things. I think it's dope that you like came on here and wanted to talk about this too. So I wanted to give you your props on that.
Yeah. But, well, I appreciate that, and I want to get it out there. I mean, I'm a dude that's living in Hawaii, and I'm 33. I mean, at least I can do something to help people, and your podcast is an avenue for me to do that.
Most definitely. That's why we're here. Well, let's get back into this story. So after doing all you did from high school and going to college, finishing college, I know you wanted to make a specific...
So
go ahead.
I went to KCC using a walking stick and a cane. So I was using that original cane first, and then I transitioned to a walking stick because that was easier and gave me more balance. That's in my first 2 years of college. Mm-hmm. So that's at community college. Then when I finished the 2 years and I was going to UH, which is the main campus, it's a lot bigger than a community college, right?
Yeah.
So when I was going there, it was so difficult. Like the first semester, I was driving and parking right where I needed to. Like they had a good parking situation, but it was so hard. Even when I parked close, it was really hard for me to walk from the car to my class, So, basically, after my first semester, I said, I got to get a scooter. So I got one of those electric mobility scooters, and I was riding it all around UH, and it basically it allowed me to graduate college. I mean, my grade point average went from 3.0 to 3.6 just from using a scooter.
That access was key for you.
Yep, absolutely. And another thing I would say, at the University of Hawaii, they have a program for people with disabilities called the Kokua program. And I would say that was incredibly helpful to me graduating.
Okay, so Hawaii is pretty much just the shit when it comes to like helping.
Well, I mean, I'm very thankful, let's put it.
Yeah.
I'm thankful to live here. Feel very happy to be born and raised in Hawaii, and I mean, I like the public school system. I mean, what more can I say?
That's dope though. I'm glad that happened to you, because a lot of people, don't get that opportunity, especially like people who don't even know what's going on with them and don't get diagnosed and get misdiagnosed and the whole 9 yards. But I had a quick question on
Yeah.
like, from you going from high school to college, like in between, like did you still not use the walking stick and like still did activities like going out and like you said you was driving, so you obviously got your driver's license and stuff too, but like how did that hinder you in doing stuff like that? Was it different? Did you have to adapt in that situation or in those kind of situations?
Absolutely. So driving, like ever since I was 10 years old, driving was like the coolest thing to me. And I wanted my license and to be able to drive so badly. So I did everything I needed to, went to driving school, had the learner's permit, all that, to get my license when I was 16.
Nice.
So that was another thing I was adapting to. Yeah, I was walking weird. I mean, I was still walking, and not using anything, and I was driving. And then when I started using the stick, I would just put it in the front seat, and that's it. Yeah, so it was always like a super important thing for me to do. So I guess when you really want something, you'll get it, even if you are walking all crazy weird,
Yeah, it's like you said, don't underestimate your abilities, man.
Right, exactly.
So thank you for answering that quick question. Fast forward back to your story about I think you were at finishing UH. Yeah.
Right. So at UH, I started using a scooter, and I would myself lift the scooter in and out of the car. Like, thinking about it, it was amazing. Like, I would be catching the bus with the scooter going, so I wouldn't have to drive sometimes. I would leave my car at home and then use the scooter to catch the bus to get to school. Sometimes, I mean, thinking about it, it's incredible.
That's the beauty of hindsight, man. You don't realize how much you accomplished till you turn around and look.
Exactly. And that's definitely the feeling I have, I look back and it's like, how did I do that? And how did I do all that stuff for school along with my life? I mean, it's really baffling.
Yeah, but you did that shit, man. That was you.
Yep. So I graduated with a double major from Scheidler College of Business, which is the business school at the University of Hawaii. And I have a double major in marketing and entrepreneurship.
Nice.
Yeah, so I've just been trying to do different entrepreneurial ventures since then. I worked for Solar City for a while as solar sales. Then they got bought by Tesla, and I lost my job. And now I'm not doing anything because now my condition has gotten so spastic. I can't walk, and my shoulder is super messed up from using the forearm crutches. So after the walking stick and after UH, I transitioned to using forearm crutches, which are those Canadian crutches. You might be familiar with the movie There's Something About Mary. There was a character that used forearm crutches.
Yeah.
And so using those for like 3 or 4 years, it was great. It gave me balance. I didn't fall. I didn't fall as much as I usually did. Like, falling was totally regular for me. And the Canadian crutches really helped me reduce my falling. But, again, I became reliant.
Yeah.
So it got to the point where I couldn't go anywhere without them. And 4 years later, basically, I realized I have a shoulder injury from using those Canadian crutches. And this shoulder injury is like so painful. And the doctors tell me they can't find anything. So I don't want to talk about that, but that's something I'm dealing with now.
Yeah.
Is the shoulder injury from using the Canadian crutches in order to adapt to the situation.
So let's kind of go back on your instances of those, and like from the Canadian ones to the cane. Like, do you ever feel like, or I don't know if doctors like swayed you that way? I know you said your dad wanted you to use the cane, but like, what did you want to do, or did doctors tell you like, hey, you should use X, Y, and Z? Like, what did doctors tell you about like your mobility and stuff like that?
Well, they, growing up, I was really resistant to physical therapy.
Mm-hmm.
That's from my second surgery. So I didn't like dealing with my situation.
Oh.
I didn't like, talking to doctors and basically dealing with it. I came to the conclusion that a walking aid might be helpful, and my dad was all about it. So of course I used it. I mean, I didn't think I would become reliant on it, but I did.
Mm.
So I mean, going back, I wouldn't want to use one, looking back on it now, but, I physically can't.
Yeah.
I need some kind of aid now. Like, now I'm in a scooter full time, or a power wheelchair.
So when you used it in when you were at college, you said you used to lift it and put it in your car?
Yeah. That was pretty amazing thinking about it. I used to have a Ford Explorer or Xterra. Had both of those, and I'd lift the scooter and put it in my car to go to school. sometimes.
Nice.
Like I said, instead of doing that, I came to the conclusion, I'll just catch the bus. So I started doing that.
Yeah,
I was lucky to have a friend that lived right by UH, so I would park there and then use the scooter to go to school.
nice. I mean, your story is really really good in a sense because you're telling what you experienced, and you're also like, I guess, and you hearing yourself speak about it, seeing how you gave perseverance and like was resilient in the things that you accomplished and just doing what you wanted to do. Like you talking about you wanted to get your license, you got your license, you finished school, like you did shit that you wanted to do. So I don't want you to feel like you feeling how you feel now, like at the being older and looking back. Like I don't want you to feel like nothing was accomplished or nothing happened, because some shit did happen.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I do have that diploma on the wall.
Yeah, you got diplomas, you got well, not completions. Think about football. You got
Yeah.
I don't even know what the word I'm trying to say. Accomplishments, tangible and intangibles of things.
Yep, true that. So I hope that, someone else with a challenge like the one I had, will overcome, will adapt and overcome.
I think you just named the podcast episode.
Good.
Adapt and overcome. What do you think about that?
I like it. I like it a lot.
Is there anything that you are looking to adapt and overcome, like coming up, or however you're feeling, or whatever you're doing?
Well,
Whether it's
aside from fantasy football,
if you want to go into fantasy football, you can too, man. It's your world.
Well, I mean, your boy did make the playoffs in Trinity. So yeah, it's a lot of fun. It's a great outlet. It's really a great outlet.
But did you win?
And then got knocked out in the first round.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate. I'm sorry. Maybe one day. Maybe one day.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's a great outlet. Finding a hobby and something you like to do, I mean, that's the only thing you can do. I mean, when you're in this situation now.
Yeah. Do you feel like you I don't know how COVID affected Hawaii in that sense, but like did you feel anything different, or are you just more of the same that you've been doing? And did anything change for you?
100%. So when the pandemic started, all my physical therapy stopped. Everything, the at-home physical therapy, the going there, everything stopped. So you can imagine me just getting tighter and tighter and worse and worse. And that's the situation because of the COVID. It stopped all the physical therapy, and now I'm just totally bedridden.
Is there any update on when it would change? Because I don't know how it is in Hawaii.
Well, I mean, I'm at a point where there could be some stretching and maintenance, but I'm not expecting to get up and walk again,
Mm-hmm.
So there's an element of realism there.
Well, don't put yourself out, man. You never say never and shit, man.
Yeah, true that. I mean,
because it put back a lot of people. Like it's not. That's going on 2 years now for setbacks, but setbacks set you up for the build up, I guess, too. But
True. Well, it is actually starting up again, so maybe next week I will have my first appointment.
well, I hope that you do, because we want you in tip-top shape. And you never know. I don't know what will come of this. I don't know if you want to. I sent you the link for the guy I talked about with the three hearts, two kidneys story. Check out his Instagram. Maybe y'all can link. I don't know, but I think it's important that you continue doing what you're doing. I think it's important that you shit not just on my shit, but like on everywhere. Tell your story, because it's like you listen to my podcast, it's not just about being on the surface with shit. At least for me, that's just my perspective. But I want people's stories to be heard, because we're more than just pictures on Instagram. We're more than just fucking talking shit and roasting people. Like, we're living lives the best that we can, and we want people to know that anything is possible if you put your mind to it. Because you've told stories here about overcoming, about doing shit that you want to do and getting shit accomplished, and it's inspiring. And I don't want you to feel like you didn't do anything, because you've done a lot, and it's important that you know that, and we're gonna get these people to hear that shit too.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted. I wanted other people to hear it and hopefully get inspired.
That's the goal. And even if it's not inspired, just to have a thought, to learn something. Because,
Right.
like I said, I didn't know anything about it until you told me about it when I started Googling it. Because I've never experienced it. I've never seen anybody around me with it. So I appreciate you for your vulnerabilities and coming on here and telling your story too. But yeah, man, we appreciate you. You got any other stories you want to tell her to let the people know?
Well, I think that's about all, Mr. A. Dot.
Wow.
I appreciate you bringing me on here for episode 150. It's a special one.
Yeah, most definitely. You should feel very special about Big 150.
Sounds good, bro. I'll be talking to you real soon.
Indeed.
We got to get a trade going on.
And on that note, thank you for listening. Thank you for telling two friends to tell two friends. And we will catch you on the flip side. I'm going to leave all AK's information if he wants the people in the podcast notes. Check him out. Maybe he be doing something later. We will see. But on that note, I am out.